For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden, and today we're chatting with Waukesha County Circuit Court Judge and former Wisconsin Attorney General Brad Schimel. In case you missed it, Mr. Schimel officially announced his candidacy for Wisconsin Supreme Court Thursday evening and agreed to come on for a chat. Well, I guess to talk about it, discuss that, and anything else that he would like to talk about. Brad, good morning. Thanks so much for coming on.
Ben.
How are you?
It's great to see you again. I'm fantastic. I got the adrenaline going. I'm in campaign mode, so
That's so crazy.
I can live on. It's like jet fuel flowing through your veins when you get going on this.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it because I would be like, anxiety would just go through the roof. I would never want to talk to anyone. If I want to make a decision, I don't want to answer any questions about it.
I think there's a biological aspect to it that adrenaline flows, and it does help you to deal with the anxiety and things. I think it's all biological.
Well, we have a lot of guests that are on the show. Like every Tuesday, we do a Positive Tuesday that benefits you with myself and Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald. And we've had Tracy Finch on, sheriff in Burnett County, a whole bunch of law enforcement. That's kind of what we do. And they've always said that when you're in that moment, when you are in it, a crash or something horrible is happening, like you don't think about anything. It just motivates you and it pushes you. And holy cow, we're already going probably way too far into what I know I want to get to all these things. Why are you announcing? Why are you announcing so soon? I'm sure that's got to be a question for a lot of people. But for those who don't know you, which I think at this point most people do, but for those who don't, give us a quick bio. Who is Brad Schimel? Where were you born and raised? Where did you go to school? Start from the beginning.
Well, I was born in West Allis, Wisconsin, in Milwaukee County. But when I was in junior high, my family moved out to Waukesha County, Mukwonago area, and I've lived essentially there the rest of my life. My family and I live in Waukesha now. My wife and I have been married 27 years. We've got two adult daughters now. I blinked, and I don't know what happened to them, but I mean, one of them's graduated from college and is a teacher already, and I don't know where this came from. Yeah, it's fantastic.
You don't look like you're 85.
Yeah, thank you, but I was actually kind of on the older side when we adopted them, so I'm a little old. Like when I would go to parent-teacher conferences when they were in school, I was usually a little older than the rest of the dads even. So, but
sure.
It's all right. A little more wisdom, a little more stability. I went to Mukwonago High School here in Waukesha, and I started my college at UW Waukesha, went to UW Milwaukee where I got my political science degree, and that left me kind of limited options. There's not a lot of stuff you can do with a political science degree. One of them, though, is go on to law school. So
now, hold on before you go further.
Yeah.
Did you, when you got your political license, or when you went for that as a degree for your major, to get your degree in that, did you know you wanted to go to law school at that point? Or it's like, no, I love politics and political science. Sounds awesome. But it was like the last minute going, frick, I can't do anything with this. I guess I'll go to law school.
I probably didn't decide on considering law school till into my junior year of college. I wasn't sure. I love history. I love political science stuff, and it was interesting. But you do get to a point where you start to realize that unless you're going to teach it, there aren't tons of ways to make money with that degree.
Yeah, true. It's like art. All the art majors. It's like, what do you do with that career?
Yeah.
Then again, I'm ignorant on that topic. So you go to law school. Where'd you go to law school?
UW.
Wisconsin?
Madison.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
University
sure.
of Wisconsin Law School.
Do they have a good law school in Madison? Is that like a known thing? Or
I don't know where they rank right now, but they've historically been in the top 20 or 25 law schools in America. They're always fantastic. It's a great school. Enjoyed my time there. Thankfully, I didn't enjoy it too much, and I actually got the degree.
Right. Madison does have. Okay, we'll skip that. So at this point, or I should say, at any point during your what is it, 3 years for law school, or is it more?
Yeah, 3 years.
So is it the same thing like when you were in college, in your undergrad, where you're a junior before you make a decision? Did you know during law school what you wanted to do at this point? Or like, nope, I got political science. I'm a lawyer. Not really sure what to do yet.
Ben, it's none of the things have ever really been my plan, but then they turn out great. I'd wanted to get a job in a big law firm, make a lot of money, and LA Law, a TV show from a
I
long
remember.
time ago. It
I remember.
premiered my first year of law school, and we all would watch it in the law school commons together on Thursday nights. And I mean, it's like, oh, it looked great. You're going to be rich. It's just going to be fun and exciting. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to go to a big firm like that. But boy, I even cut my hair and shaved my mustache back then, but the big firms didn't hire me. And I ended up, one of my professors, Herman Goldstein, he's passed away now, but he had suggested that I consider doing the prosecutor internship program. And he pitched it to me. He said, Brad, you're going to get paid virtually nothing doing this, but they're going to put you in the courtroom every day. And sure enough, they did. So my last year of law school, that summer in the school year, I tried 7 jury trials before I ever graduated law school. And I was in the courtroom virtually every day. And it was a great experience. And I found that I loved it. Working with law enforcement, working to help crime victims, it made sense. Now, when I first graduated law school and got a job in the DA's office as an assistant DA, starting pay was $26,000 some dollars a year. It was
Nice.
it was tough to pay off the student loans with
Yeah, a
that.
little bit. You basically just have a job to pay off your loans.
Yeah, but I loved it. I did that for 17 years as an assistant DA, and I had no plans to do anything else. Frankly, I wanted to be the deputy DA in the office that kind of managed the place. That was my plan. I didn't have any plans to run for political office, but my boss, the DA at the time then, and the deputy DA, who I emulated and wanted to be him, they both said, no, you should run for DA. And my colleagues in the office agreed. And so I ran. It was a tough race. It was a primary that I had to win, and then I was in. But I loved that job too. But I'll pause for a moment because it just keeps rolling on things weren't my plan. That wasn't my plan to run for DA, but there I did.
So when you say it wasn't my plan, I get it's not like mapped out. So is this you were encouraged by others, or was there something else that just was something inside of you said, okay, this is what I need to do? It's very obvious to me now where it wasn't a year, 2, 20, or 10 years ago.
I had gotten as an assistant DA, you see things in the system that are broken that need to be or just need to be done better. And as an assistant DA, I started seeing those things. And when I was in the sensitive crimes unit for about a decade, I saw things that had to be done differently. I worked on some of those things. We developed in Waukesha County, while I was in that unit, we developed the first full-service child advocacy center in Wisconsin because I saw that what we were sending kids to a great facility in Milwaukee, but they were overwhelmed. When a parent would take their child who'd been abused to be interviewed there, we might have to schedule that 11 days out or something. You can't do that. You have to have this available now. So we built it here in Waukesha County, a team of about 5 of us. We created that organization. I saw that as far as treatment for adult victims of sexual assault, we didn't have our own sexual assault nurse examiner program in Waukesha County, and we needed it.
Is that SARN?
SANE. Yep.
SANE, that's the one. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So you're almost like on the forefront of some of this stuff.
So we did, and I'd done when I was a younger assistant DA prosecuting the drunk driving cases and stuff. A group of us created the first victim impact panel for drunk drivers in Wisconsin, and that's been going strong for 30 years already. And now almost every county in the state has a program like that because they're valuable.
That's right.
You know what? You need to put into the mind of and in the heart of somebody who's gotten convicted now of 3 drunk drivings. You need to make something has to change or they keep coming back. And so you let them hear from victims who don't come in to scold them or yell at them. They come in to tell the story about the person they lost and reach out to their heart. And it makes a difference. You can't stop everybody from getting another one, but it is effective. Well, Ben, I'd always done those kind of things. But I wasn't thinking about it. It's just like, well, we have to fix this. We have to do better. And all of a sudden, people like the police chiefs and the sheriff and the DA all looked at me and said, Brad, you've been so active. You've been doing these things. You've got all these community connections you've built. you could run for office and win, and they thought I'd be a good DA. So all of a sudden, with no plan in mind, that was what I did. And my kids then were, they were 1 and 3 when I announced that I was running for DA. And they've lived their whole lives going in parades. And
I feel sorry for him. When my dad was a sheriff for 20 years, that's how I grew up. And my father, Washington County Sheriff Terry Dryden, or he was for until he retired a few years ago. I know you know him well.
Yeah.
But it's not fun being the son of people that are in the public eye. Now, clearly not to your level, but holy buckets, no.
Terry was never one to leave a local fair unattended by him or anything. Right. He was not going to. He was going to be at it, and I'm kind of the same guy. I'm very social that way. I like interaction. I like meeting people, talking to them, finding out what makes them tick, and just shooting the breeze sometimes. And boy, running for office truly is about having the most friends. I mean, people.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
in terms of like support,
running for president, you can't go meet everybody.
No,
obviously, you got to run ads, you got to do all those things and manage the media. Running for a county office, you can go and shake a lot of hands. You can talk to a lot of people. You can make friends. Now, the state level, when I ran for attorney general, I had to get used to something different. I couldn't shake every hand, but
I get it.
A lot of them.
I get it. So you run for district attorney. You get that gig, right?
Yeah.
How long were you a DA for?
I was reelected twice, so I served 8 years as the elected DA.
And obviously the difference between ADA and DA, there are several, but I just want to ask you one specific question about the difference. You are now, you're at the top. You're like a coach or for a football team. You get the credit, you get the blame, you get all the attention, all the media questions. Was that a shock to you when you got to that, and how did you deal with that?
Well, I would say it's a player coach, because certainly in Waukesha County, I think there were 18 attorneys in the office.
Jeez.
And there was so much work to do that I couldn't just be a boss or a manager. So certainly I was still prosecuting cases, although it changed. Suddenly I was handling homicides and things that were much bigger in nature. But I don't know. I never really. Being DA is not that political a position. I mean, it is. You got to run for office.
Yeah, but it kind of isn't. I get it. Right. It's not really.
You're trying to enforce and apply the law fairly to the citizens you serve. And working with law enforcement was great. I love that part of all the work I've been doing.
So then, towards the end of that, something clicked, right? Or what happened? And you said, you know what? That AG spot looks pretty sweet. Was that your decision? Was it someone who's encouraged you? How did that all come to be?
It didn't happen anything like that. Frankly, after the DA's race, it took me away from family so much and all that. It really seemed that there was no way my wife was going to approve me running for anything else. And we'd go to events, we'd go to political events, and people would say, "Oh, when are you going to run for attorney general? We should have you run for that." I never got to answer that question. My wife would always answer, "Never.
No, never going to happen."
So I was thrilled doing my work as DA, and then I got a phone call from J.B. Van Hollen, the former attorney general.
Oh, sure.
And J.B. just asked, would I mind meeting with him for a cup of coffee? And he shared with me before he'd made public that he wasn't going to run for re-election. And he thought I should run. I said, "Hold on, JB. This is not in my game plan here."
Right. Yeah.
I don't think my wife's going to be on board, and I can't do it if she's not on board. And I think I need to pray on it. And so he said, "Yeah, you need to do those things, but think about it." I did pray on it, and I went and talked to my wife, and it was a conversation I'll never forget, because I was expecting I would tell her that someone proposed I do this, and she would just say no, and it's over.
Never going to happen, right?
I'll tell you this, I'm not getting divorced, you know?
You're not stupid, right?
So she surprised me, and she said yes, kind of like when I asked her to marry me. But anyway, she surprised me and said, "Yes, I think you should go for it." I'm like, "Really? Why are you changing your mind?" She said, "Because you need a change." I said, I don't need to change. I love being DA. I'm thriving at it. I think I'm pretty popular doing it.
You
I
keep
love
getting
going.
reelected, so you must be doing something right.
And she said, you do need to change. You may love the job, but it doesn't love you. And I was like, what are
What?
that's crazy talk, Marge. You know, her name's not Marge. That's from The Simpsons. But but she kind of explained to me. She said, you're called out in the middle of the night pretty regularly, going to scenes, and they're bad. They're not calling the elected DA to come out because they got somebody driving after revocation. It's going to be something bad, and you're kind of quiet about it. You don't ever talk about your work. You kind of shut us out. You come home from work and you don't talk to anybody for a while. And she said, you don't really talk to your daughters. You kind of interrogate your daughters. And I was like, wow, maybe I'm in too deep. Maybe I need to take a step back. Ben, I never saw it. I never realized it until I became Attorney General and I stepped away from being on the front lines like that. That holy cow, it consumes you, and you think you're healthy, you think you're good, and that it's not eating you up, but it can be without you seeing it coming. And I'm sure your dad, I'm sure that Sheriff Fitzgerald, they could tell you similar stories.
They do, and they. I'm sorry to interject here, but they do, and how these people stay in that profession for that long. I've asked them offline many times. I mean, it's got to screw with your head after a while. And even DAs and just the people in that whole system, when you see the things that you see, you can't unsee it. And how you deal with it and process it. And thank the Lord that we have people that want to do that job, because I wouldn't want to. Most people I know wouldn't actually want to do that job. But that's legit, man. That stuff, that's heavy.
Ben, that's why when I became Attorney General, one of the first things we focused on was developing a wellness program for law enforcement. We created a first in the nation program that focused on, we worked to get all of the law enforcement agencies in the state to develop wellness programs that had chaplain programs, had employee assistance programs, had peer-to-peer networks, any of the ways that you might need to talk. Because, something we do know is, we know that we lose law enforcement officers to duty deaths. And those are terrible tragedies. What people don't know is we lose 4 times as many to suicide. Law enforcement have much higher suicide rate than average citizen. They have higher divorce rates. They have higher substance abuse rates. They live shorter lives. And because we've never taken care of it. And it's just like with our military personnel too. There's kind of you can't ask for help because that's a sign of weakness.
That's right.
And in those kind of positions, you don't ever want to show a sign of weakness. And so they don't ask a lot of times before it's too late. So we built out this program. By the time I left Department of Justice, we had a chaplain training and credentialing program in Wisconsin that for free, we put nearly 400 police chaplains through this training, credentialed them, and they're out helping law enforcement to survive. And I get some of those chaplains who still reach out to me now and then and just let me know, Brad, in case you ever wondered whether that was worth it. I can't tell you any details, Brad, but I know just the other day, another life was saved because that program's there. So I'm proud of that, but that was driven from things that, frankly, my wife pointed out to me that I never thought about, because I had that bravado too. Like, I got thick skin. I can handle this. I don't need to ask for help.
That's right. Yeah.
I didn't see it. And I know there's a lot of law enforcement, and I'm actually working with a friend of mine who is the director of the Wisconsin Firefighters Memorial. And Jim wants to create a more coordinated chaplain program for firefighters. And I'm hooking him up with people that can help do that too. Same deal. And we got to do that for firefighters, military personnel, law enforcement, anybody doing those frontline things where you walk into things that the rest of us are, we don't see every day. Got to help them out.
So so now we're kind of up to that point where you were Attorney General. I'm kind of skipped how you got to that point here, and we can certainly go back to that. But you were talking about this, and it reminded me of the people that I've had on the shows, sheriffs, chiefs, judges, DAs, sometimes they say it on the show. Sometimes they kind of say it to me afterwards or in private conversations. And this actually happened after you were gone from the AG's office and Josh Kaul was there. And I'm not trying to bang on Josh Kaul. I'm just saying many of them had reached out and said, boy, we sure miss, Brad Schimel. And I was going to ask you, why do you think they do? Why do they still, a lot of the people at least in Northwest Wisconsin, can't speak for anyone else, not down in your area, but around here, everyone that is in those positions were like, yeah, Brad, that dude's legit. He was at all the Badger State Sheriff's Associations, the Chiefs things. He was always there for us. He would always stand up and support us. And I wanted to ask you, why do you think that? But I think you just kind of touched on it.
Well, Ben,
you got emotional, and so did I. You just talking about this. You can't fake that stuff, man.
Those guys, sheriffs and police chiefs, rank and file law enforcement, they don't just automatically throw you a ticker tape parade because you're running for attorney general or you are the attorney general. There's a lot of sitting in the room with their arms crossed, looking at you, kind of, who's this guy? What does he want from me?
Yeah.
They rolled in another politician. I was hoping for that today. That's kind of their attitude. It took some time, and I had to kind of set aside the canned speeches that everybody wants you to give, and just tell them from my heart where I came from, what I've seen, and what it is about what they do that I appreciate. And okay, they started to warm up in a little bit, and eventually, we just became a great team. What the work I was able to do with law enforcement to change things, there are things, I lost the election in 2018, but there were things that we accomplished as a team that nobody can ever undo that, I'm proud of. I'll always carry that with me.
So after that election, Josh Kaul wins. And I believe I should have looked that up before. It was very close. I think it was even closer than Scott Walker and Evers, if I recall.
Yeah, I lost by 17,000 votes.
Holy cow!
And there's a third party candidate who ran as a constitutional candidate who took 47,000. Neither Josh nor I got 50% of the vote. We were both under that.
That kind of reminds me a little bit, and now we're off topic a little bit, but I just want to quickly ask you this now. Did you pay attention?
That's a conversation with me. It's going to go off topic.
So you then got appointed. I think Governor Walker. I don't know if I'm using the terminology correctly, but appointed to be a judge after that race, and before he was out of office to be the Waukesha or a judge, circuit court judge in Waukesha. Right. But did you follow? So after that, of course, there was an attorney general race. Just one recently, our friend Adam Jarkow and Eric Toney, and I think there was a third person I can't remember on the
Karen Mueller.
There we go, Republican side, and then it was Eric Toney and Josh Kaul. When you looked at that Republican, do you follow those things? When you're a judge, hey man, I'm in my county, I'm a judge, dude, I could do this until I retire. Everything's great, and I don't want to know what's going on in the attorney general's race, because that's where I was from, and I did that, and I have a lot of passion for that job, and I want to see it be successful, but I can't look. I don't want to know. But that was a similar race where there was three people. There were two kind of, Eric Toney and Jarkow were kind of the quote unquote. They were the two, I don't know what you would call it, the main people, and then someone else came in. I'm not saying that's the reason that one won or one lost, but that kind of all of a sudden changed the dynamics a little bit. Did you follow that race?
Sure, I paid attention to it. As a judge, I can't get involved in the partisan races like that, but I paid attention. The Department of Justice will always be important to me. And by the way, I root for and pray for Josh Kaul to be successful in the things he does. When they have a drug take back, twice a year, I'm always rooting that they have a successful one, that they take more unused drugs out of people's medicine cabinets. And some of the other things, I hope that he's successful, because then the people of Wisconsin will be successful. So I pay attention to it, and I've come to grips with the loss of that election. It wasn't easy at first. I was in a pretty dark time for a while.
I can only imagine.
For a bit there. A great disappointment, because it was something I never dreamed of doing, but once I was there, I loved it. I loved every day of doing the things we were doing. But I came to grips with it, and now you move on, you let it go, or otherwise it's like they say, if you hate somebody, it's not that other person that's carrying the hate around. It's you that's carrying the hate around.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
you have to let those things go and move on. And I think I'm as healthy about it as anybody. I'm not perfect, but
Well, it
I've
takes
tried.
time in anything. It's almost like a relationship, not even like a divorce, just like a boyfriend girlfriend been dating for a while. It's going to take a little while to kind of move past that a little bit. So when you let's get up to kind of where we are now, which is you have announced that you are running for Wisconsin Supreme Court. So when I don't know, you started as a judge in Waukesha, what 20 would that be 2019?
19. Yep,
2019,
2019.
and we're in 2023. So again, going back to, I think I kind of touched on this a little bit ago, when you were like a year in, you're going, hey, I can do this forever. I love it. This is great. I could be a judge. Everything's going wonderful. I can retire here. Because come on, man, being a judge, that's legit. That's a legit gig. You can do that until you retire. And you're at home. You're not far away. Like, everything is wonderful. So what happened? And I kind of want to know. I don't know if you'll tell us. But did you kind of like a year into it realize this isn't it for me forever? I don't know what I'm going to do, but I don't want to do this forever. When did you realize I want to do something else? And was it specifically this?
Again, I didn't have a plan. I was planning to stay as a circuit court judge. There are tremendous benefits. I went from in 2018, I averaged 2,300 miles a week on my car.
Eesh.
As Attorney General. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I was traveling constantly, 70 plus hour work weeks. That's just normal for that. So all of a sudden I'm a judge and I'm working 8 to 5. And when I'm done, I'm kind of done. I'm not taking much home with me. Most days, some days I do, but
I get it.
most of the time, I mean, I'm able to join sporting clays leagues now.
Right.
And
Yeah, what do you
stuff I never do.
just keep doing this? That's a good gig. It's a good life.
So it has been that was what I thought was going to happen next. After we lost the Supreme Court race this April, some conservative judges around the state started talking to me about, listen, we can't keep losing here. We've got to win this back. And people thought that maybe it could be me. I mean, I get several of them from up in your area that had been working on me on this. I didn't give it that much thought. When August 1st came around, honestly, Ben, I was really disappointed in what the new majority on the Supreme Court has done. They've really misbehaved. They come in before the newest justice was even sworn in. They had a secret meeting of the four of them, and at that meeting made a decision to fire the director of state courts. And then the day before she was even sworn in, Randy Koshnick gets a call. Oh, by the way, Randy, you're going to be fired tomorrow. And the next day he got the letter and he was out. They didn't have to do that. Absolutely. They're the new majority. They can choose who the director of state courts would be. They had their next business meeting or administrative meeting in September. All they had to do was wait a month. In August, they don't do anything at the court anyway. They're on summer break. Could have waited till September, had a vote, and said, hey, we're going another direction. But they had to make a statement. And then within a week and a half of that, they announced to the Chief Justice that, oh, by the way, Chief Justice Ziegler, those constitutional powers that you have as Chief Justice, yeah, we're taking those away. We're going to do that now instead. Ben, that's serious misbehavior. And it's an unchecked kind of power grab because there's nothing you can do. Because where are you going to sue them? You're going to take your case to the state Supreme Court?
Right.
That's that kind of, when they talk about that power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yeah. Well, they're in that position now, and they're doing what they want, and they're doing it with impunity. The only way we're going to check them is to take back the majority. I mean, and I've been convinced by others that I'm probably the candidate from our side that can has the best chance to win this. Not my plan, but I've been approached, and I think it's the right thing to do.
If Dan Kelly defeated Janet Protasewicz last year, How much would that have impacted your decision to run now?
then I wouldn't be talking about this. And you asked a question, why am I in this so early? Yeah, because I don't know if all of your audience realizes this race is not till April of 25. We are
It sounds
18
like
months.
it's forever away.
But in political things, that is a snap of your fingers, and that time has passed.
Yeah.
And we have to do things differently. Conservatives have been losing statewide races now for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I can identify some of the reasons why. We haven't had a good ground game. We have candidates too often where they think that, well, you can just jump into the race late. If you raise a lot of money, you can spend millions of dollars on TV commercials, and you can send 8 flyers to people's mailboxes a week, and that's it. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not saying you don't have to say these words. I'll say them. That reminds me of our last governor's race in the Republican Party. Yeah, it reminds me. I'm just saying that's an example. Not saying that you're saying that, but you kind of jump in late on certain things. And it's not just that, but it trickles down. Yeah, totally get it. But it's that same idea, right? It's. I don't know if it's like a Trump effect where, hey, if he can be president, I can run for something. But it's not like how it used to be. And I don't know if that's good. I don't know if it's bad. It just is what it is.
Well, I don't think the old school type of politicking is dead. And I think by getting in the race this early, I've got 18 months to work on that ground game. I've got 2 full cycles of the Lincoln Day dinners to
right.
I've got all the parades. I can have a platform to talk about things that I think are going wrong with the Supreme Court or in the justice system where it's more official. And I can shake so many hands. Part of the problem too is starting in February at the latest, all anybody's going to focus on is the presidential race and the U.S. Senate race until November. And it's going to be hard to get any oxygen running this race. Well, if I wait till next November to get started on it, there's just not time. You can't build your ground game. You can't get this together.
No.
You can't build the loyal volunteers that come on board not because they saw an ad. Those people don't. People that go out and work for you and tell 200 of their friends, they don't do that because you ran an ad. People do that because you took the time to meet them, to talk to them, to find out what makes them tick and what they think their state government should look like. And then and frankly, that's the next piece of it, is being in it this long, you get to develop as a candidate. Because, I remember when I ran for DA, my wife and I, between the two of us, knocked on 5,000 doors that summer. And you'd think it would just be you go do your political spiel and you know what takes people tick. I know what these voters want. No, you talk to these people at the door for a few minutes and you find out for real. And that makes you a better public servant. Well, I think this long time running, a year and a half, gives me that chance to become that better servant when I finally do get elected to the court.
Well, and also don't forget, or for people listening, we don't know who's all. Obviously, you're running against Bradley. I can't remember. There's 2 Bradleys. I can't remember which. Yeah, there you go. If there are more than 2 people, there is a primary, and that would be in February. So yeah, if you waited a year until after the presidential election cycle, and you announce on November 30th of next year, there could potentially be a primary in February, or a few weeks away, and you can't raise money, you can't get a message out, you can't go to all those Lincoln Day dinners. So that kind of makes sense, actually. It's not that far away. It seems like it just because it's 2023 and then 2025, but it's actually not that far away.
Right. I'll be doing plenty of stuff. I will be getting to every event. When June comes, look for me at all the dairy breakfasts.
Yeah.
In the July Independence Day, look for me at all the parades, all those things, of course. But there is going to be, to a certain extent, time is going to stop a little bit for everything but the national races from February to November.
Yeah.
And I'll be working behind the scenes. But if I announce this in April, no one would notice it. It would be, the tree falling with no one to hear it. Doing it now, I think, now we've got a lot of attention to this already. And, today's going to be a big day getting on media all over the state.
Yeah. Well, that also, glad you brought that up. So this, of course, is whether it was Protasiewicz or Dan Kelly, actually to a much lesser degree, Dan Kelly. He was on a few times, and he was very, here's how I rule, here's how I would. This very, I have a methodology. Look at this, etc. But because you are going to be the one that is going to be in the news cycle for a while here, you're going to get asked questions about, I don't know, hypotheticals and how would you rule on marijuana and fair maps and abortion. And I don't want to get into all those things. I'm sure you're going to come back on before, your actual election. So we can get into more of those specifics later. But really, I don't want to do things like everybody else does it. I just want to ask you this. What's your strategy? What's your plan? How are you preparing to answer those specific questions? How are you going to rule on this one specific case, even though you're not a Supreme Court justice as of yet? What's your plan? How are you going to answer those?
Well, you can't tell people how you're going to rule on a case,
Right.
for several reasons. One is nobody should go into a courtroom knowing that they already lost. You should go into that courtroom with an assurance that you're going to get a fair shake. And if you don't have if your case isn't the winner, okay, you're going to lose. But you should never go in feeling that you've lost already. And the second thing is, I was actually talking to one of my fellow judges who also came up through the DA's office ranks this afternoon, or just yesterday afternoon, excuse me. But we were talking about this, about how we approach being a judge. And both of us learned as prosecutors, there's always another side. The first thing you get are the police reports, and you see this, and it looks like, wow, this guy looks like Satan. This is pretty bad. Yep. Then you start to hear the other side of it, and you recognize, okay, there are mitigating things here. This person's going to have to pay consequences for what they did, but you're not dealing with the spawn of Satan. And as a judge, you get that every day too, where the first thing you see is when the plaintiff comes in and files their complaint. You read it, and it's like, oh, wow, sounds like they've got a strong case and this other side's in trouble. But then the other side's coming, you hear it. And many, many times, my first impressions about a case, I put them aside because I know that they may not be the way this ends up. And it happens all the time, that my first impressions and even impressions late into the case will change, and I'll rule in a way that I didn't really see that coming. But you listen to everyone all the way to the end. We instruct jurors when we pick a jury. The first instructions I give them as a judge are, you are not to start talking about this case with each other. You wait until all of the evidence comes in. Don't talk to anyone else. When all of the evidence is done, all of the arguments are made, then you begin your deliberations. Before that, you keep an open mind at all times. We tell that to jurors, and yet there are some people in the judiciary who don't seem to understand that you have to keep that open mind. That's what the public expects. If you want to come in all biased and you have your positions and your ideas that you think should become the law, then you're in the wrong place. Go be a lawyer and advocate for clients in the courtroom, or become a legislator and advocate for laws. But as a judge, you're breaking the biggest rule when you don't keep that objectivity. And it's not just about giving lip service and saying, I won't prejudge. It's about having that actual attitude that you won't.
I think I saw, I don't think it was on Facebook, because you never know. I can't remember where it was. There was somewhere earlier this week. There was an article. I think this was before you had officially announced that there was some, I wish I could remember where it was. But they were saying that speculating that you were going to be announcing that you're running for Wisconsin Supreme Court, and that you are going to be like one of the biggest partisan either candidates or partisan or something along those lines. I don't know if you saw that. I can't remember where I saw it. Did you see that? And if so, what was your response to that?
It was politics, yeah.
Well, okay, there you go. And when you saw it, what did you think?
Give me a break. As Attorney General, I had a job to do. I defended the state and the laws that were passed and signed into law by the governor, by the legislature and the governor. So, okay, that felt partisan, but that was my job as Attorney General. By the way, your job is not to be suing the legislature every time you turn around, which some people don't seem to get. Okay, nice. But anyway, nice. But most of what I did focused on public safety, focused on trying to prevent problems. We developed a really vibrant elder abuse task force that got some laws passed that have made a difference to keep our seniors safer. We got for the first time in Wisconsin administrative subpoena power in cases where a child has been abused online, so we can get to that child faster and get them help. And I created that law. We helped create that law enforcement wellness program. We created the drug take back program at the state level that took, I don't know, I think we're in many tens and many hundreds of thousands of pounds of unused medications. We took out of medicine cabinets and put them safely, incinerated them. We did those things. I worked with law enforcement every day to get good things done. And that's why when I ran for re-election in 2018, every sitting sheriff that endorsed me, and that included all of the Democrat sheriffs that endorsed. And because they rose above politics, and that's what sheriffs do. That's what law enforcement officers do. Judges do that too. Rise above the politics, do what's right, serve the people that you were elected to serve. That guy who did that song, Rich Men North of Richmond.
Oh,
I mean, he struck a chord with tens of millions of Americans, and he struck a chord with me too, because it was like finally somebody saying it in such a cohesive, coherent way that there are far too many people in public service who view public service as service to themselves. And I'm tired of it. And it's part of why I keep every now and then I lose my mind and decide to turn my life upside down and run for statewide office again.
Yeah. I'd asked you earlier about if Protasewicz had lost to Dan Kelly, would you run? And maybe there wouldn't be, but kind of piggybacking on the if it was WisPolitics, that you'd be partisan. So what would you tell people that are listening it doesn't matter, just a citizen, it doesn't matter if they're Republicans or Democrats, we're just people, that are you going to be a rubber stamp for the conservative view? Is that what it is? And Democrats, you better, oh boy, look out, man, because if you elect me, I'm going to just everything that's for conservatives and all the Republicans. That's going to come up. You just know it's going to. You're going to get asked that question. What do you tell people when they're going to ask you that question? Nobody
comes into my courtroom knowing that they lost already, unless they know from the facts that this isn't going to end well. But
right.
At least in terms of if a predisposition on my part that's not going to be there, that they're all going to get a fair listen. When I was I served in the criminal bench for 3.5 years, and the public defenders and the defense bar, they can substitute on judges. They didn't do that, and the prosecutors, they wouldn't want a different judge either, because I listened carefully to people, I respect people, and I understand that most times when people are in trouble or there's trouble around them, it wasn't their plan, but things went bad. And so you listen with some compassion, you pay attention to the facts, and above all else, you pay attention to the Constitution and the law, and you apply those faithfully. And frankly, the notion that some people would campaign by going out and telling people what they're going to run, or what they're going to do when they're in that office, that's
bizarre, right? Come on, when you saw that, and we all know you're talking about, or I'm sorry, you're speaking in generalities. I'm going to assume who you're talking about. But when you see that, doesn't it just kind of, when you're sitting there going, oh, what are you doing? Like, I don't care if you are a liberal or I don't care where you stand, just that's not good for all of us as judges, and running like, come on, don't do that. Don't say that. Does it drive you crazy when you are a citizen as well, watching a lot of these races, whether it's Wisconsin or other places, going, come on, no. Does it bother you at all when you see that stuff?
I saw a poll a month or so ago that Americans, less than 50% of them have confidence now in the United States Supreme Court.
Ugh.
I haven't seen any poll for the Wisconsin Supreme Court. That's terrible, because frankly, it shouldn't feel like a court is so partisan that it's not going to be fair there. And I feel that that's why people feel this way. They think they have this perception that they're not. I will work hard to change that you have a fair shake in front of me, but the law is the law. And I'm not going to try to find ways to to not apply the law faithfully the way it was written, to apply the Constitution the way it was intended when it was written, I will do those things. But every person's going to get a fair listen in my courtroom, and I will not judge anything until I've read all the briefs, until I've heard the arguments, and then had time to consider all of that carefully. I was well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that there's going to be probably a lot of people who have watched this that are wondering why I'm not asking you specific questions of what, like gerrymandering or maps or the abortion. The reality is your campaign is going to be, or the election will be in 2025. There's a very good chance that all that stuff will kind of be probably solved by then. So it seems kind of silly to spend so much time on something that that's not even what you're like in 6 months, next fall or something. Different story. Now we can actually talk about what's coming up and kind of your views on certain things. If you wanted to, that's fine. But just want to make that clear. I don't like getting in all that stuff if I don't feel like it's really going to be relevant over the next year in terms of what you could do, because who cares? Just my opinion.
Well, there's one thing I agree with one of the candidates for the court who said that it's important to talk to people about your values. I agree with that, actually. I just disagree with that person about what values means, because I think values are integrity, honesty, respect for others, a good work ethic. All those things are values. Yep. Telling people what your opinions are about a case, those aren't values. That's just telling people what your opinion is, what you think should happen. I absolutely will talk to people about my values, and I'll be honest about things that are important to me. Obviously, the abortion issue has been a huge motivator in politics nationwide ever since the Dobbs decision. Well, frankly, since Roe v. Wade, it has been, and the Dobbs decision has fired off a whole new round of fireworks over this. It's something I absolutely have to address head on as a candidate for office. And I'll tell you, Ben, the answer isn't that complicated. First off, I have 2 adopted daughters, and we have amazing stories to tell about the birth moms who are 18-year-old students still living at home, who went to school every day pregnant, had to deal with the dirty looks, judgments, and everything, and they gave birth to these babies. That's hard. I understand. I obviously don't have any personal experience on that, but they went through all that to give my wife and I the chance to have a family that we couldn't have biologically. How would I be anything else but pro-life? How would I see that child in the womb any other way? But you know what? When I think pro-life, it's not only the child in the womb that we should be concerned about. It's all the way till natural death. And all the people that come in front of me in front of my courtroom. I presided over the drug treatment court for about 3 years. And I'm going to boast a little bit, something I'm very proud of. When I come back for a visit, when there's a graduation from one of the people who started when I was in the program, I get a huge standing ovation from the participants in the program who know me, because I respect them as human beings. I recognize that when they came to our court, they were in a fallen state. And I recognize that with help, we could restore them to be functioning members of the community again. And I loved and I hated that work, because it was so rewarding when they succeeded. It was so painful when they struggled. But I see all of those people who come in front of me in my courtroom, whether they're in drug treatment court or regular criminal court or my civil or juvenile rotations, they come in front of me. They're a human being who's worthy of my respect, worthy of me taking a few minutes to try to understand how they got in the position they're in. And if there's a way to help them out, try to do that. That's a value that someone should bring to the court, not telling you my opinion about things. But when it comes to abortion, there's these 2 pieces. One is, yes, I'm pro-life because my personal experience tells me that's how I should be. But Ben, I'm not running to be king. The United States Supreme Court put this question back to the voters of the states, and that's where it belongs properly. They'll make this decision. And as Chief Justice, as a justice on the Supreme Court, I will not be there to undo the will of the voters. I will be there to uphold the will of the voters.
Yeah, that's going to be a hard sell, though. A lot of people will tie those things together. They
Gotcha.
still do, right? Well, where do you stand on this? Well, then that means he's going to make everything, or she is going to make it legal, or they're going to make it illegal. They still put that on there. Is this a messaging problem from the Supreme Court? Should they have their own Facebook page or something where we need to put this down that, listen, folks, we don't make laws, right? That's not our jobs.
I mean, there's two directions I can go. Well, I guess there's three. One is I could just refuse to talk about it at all, which
That doesn't sound like you. Not the Brad I know.
No, and then somebody gets to paint you however they want to paint you.
Yeah.
I guess another option is I could find some politically slick answer and try to do that and pull that off. I can't do that, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at it. You'll see right through me. Or I can just be honest with you about where I stand, where I come from, and what my values are as a jurist.
Well, I only two things left that I wrote down. I want to make sure I touched on. One, speaking of why you think the way you think and why you make certain decisions, I have to ask you, because I did not ask you this question. So you and I have, after you were no longer Attorney General, you were actually on a show like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It was like one of our first shows. We had all these technical issues and whatnot. So it's kind of neat having you back on. But you and I have kept in touch a little bit. We're not like best friends or anything. But, every once in a while we'll kind of chat a little. And you've always been very caring and very kind and gracious. Great conversations about just random things, not about political. It's not DrydenWire to that judge. It's just Ben and Brad, right? But when I asked you, when I found out about this, if you'd want to come on for a show, I'm like, no big deal if you don't want to. It's rural north of Wisconsin, right? Nobody cares about us up here. They don't. Like, we cover 6 counties, which is a big part of rural northwest Wisconsin, and it's total like 150,000 people, which is like 30,000 voters or whatever it would be, tops. And you're like, no, I would love to. I love north of Wisconsin. I love rural Wisconsin. And I'm like, whatever, nobody does. Except for us. Like, we all love it here. But we never get any love from state candidates.
So
why did you decide to come on to do this?
Well, there's the emotional side to it that you just talked about. I love the people in the more rural counties of Wisconsin, especially the Northwoods. They're genuine. They're hardworking. They don't think it's okay to steal your neighbor's stuff. They have values that I appreciate a lot. So I love being with them. There's that side, the emotional side. There's also then the more hard political side. Winning a statewide race, yes, you have to devote a lot of energy to the places where the most voters are. So southeastern Wisconsin.
Yeah, makes sense. Right, yeah.
You have to do that. But winning the race is not just about that. Winning the race is about driving up the margins in the other places. So I'm running a 72 county race. I'm getting to all of them, and that's another reason why I'm in it for a year and a half here, because I can get to every county multiple times. I've got a chance to get to know everybody, and I am not running to be a Supreme Court justice for Waukesha or any other particular place. I'm running for everybody, and so it's important I understand what's important to people in the Northwoods and western Wisconsin and rural counties all over the state. It's important to understand that. And I am not discounting them just because that county can't deliver 100,000 votes.
Well, it's nice to hear. Just saying. We don't get a whole lot of people from down in the southern that come up here very often.
And plus, Ben, it's a beautiful state.
I know. It's fantastic.
If you get off the interstate once in a while and see what's out there, it's incredible. And what is the highway that runs along the hilltops? It goes through Arcadia between La Crosse and Eau Claire up there.
I don't know that one. That's Eau Claire is just south of us, so I'm not familiar south of there.
But that stretch of highway is absolutely incredible. You are sitting up there in the hills and you can see forever.
Love
and
it.
The campaign trail, I've run that trip from La Crosse to Eau Claire, and that's the quickest way there. I've run it many times. And I'm always overwhelmed at how gorgeous it is. Getting down in the southwestern part of the state where you've got just the valleys cut by rivers that the glaciers never smoothed out. Or the north, up in Vilas and Oneida and Langlade County, where you have the greatest concentration of inland lakes per square mile on the planet right here in Wisconsin. Yeah, Minnesota You're beautiful with your 10,000. Wisconsin, we're north of 15,000. It's incredible. Every place you go here, or Door County, it's all beautiful. And it's a diverse state. I remember once when I was running in 2014 for AG, I was speaking at the Safari Club International event in Oconomowoc down here in Waukesha. And then I had to go from that in the morning up to give a speech in Washburn, in Bayfield County, though.
Sure.
The city of Washburn.
Yep, right north of here. Yep.
Right on Lake Superior. And it was 6 hours to get from down here to there. I mean, I can drive to St. Louis in 6 hours. I mean, it's a long way. And
it just is. It is.
A lot of people down here in southeastern Wisconsin, they think that Wausau's about it. And there's
Eau Claire, Wausau, that's north. It's like no. That's middle. Right. You haven't gotten to the Northwoods yet.
So I was down here in Oconomowoc, and the tulips were coming up. It was spring outside the place I was speaking.
Okay.
I got up to Washburn, and I was like, holy cow, the pickup trucks are still out on the ice. And there were the snow piles in the parking lot were 6 feet tall. And it's like, yeah, wow, I didn't notice when I passed the Arctic Circle on the way up, but good Lord. It's a big state.
It's is.
Beautiful.
I know. Up here, because we don't get any love from anybody, we pretty much all decided, by we, I just mean me, and I'm speaking for everyone without any approval to do so. Milwaukee, man, so they can just absorb all that into Illinois. Just go away. Because if you don't care for us, we're not going to care for you. But that's not actually true. I'm just joking. But there's a big difference, right? We talk about gun rights.
I do not wish that on any of my friends in southern Wisconsin.
Right, just go away. Go to Illinois. Yeah.
No.
But there's a big difference between, we talk about gun rights in rural northwest Wisconsin, in Barron, Burnett, Sawyer, Washburn, Polk, Rusk County. That's wildly different conversation than it is in Waukesha and Milwaukee, because it's just a different feeling what you get, because we don't have certain things, the crimes that they have, and a lot of it up here is hunting. It just shows that it isn't, Wisconsin, of course, is just one big state, duh. But there's big differences on how we view certain things in certain parts of our state. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying that's good, which is why it's so important for a candidate running for state office to understand those differences in each section and part of this state. So again, thank you for doing this.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I mean, nobody knows better than Chris Fitzgerald how horrible tragedies can happen anywhere in this state.
I know it. They've had so many bad things lately, man, and officers' deaths, and just so much. It's just so sad. But, he's very transparent. He'll talk about anything, which is why I respect him so much. And the last thing, I've been purposely waiting for you to say something, and you haven't yet. Have you noticed my cup that I've been drinking?
I'm not looking to pick a fight here. I don't know.
Well, I'm totally going to, because I know you're a big Brewers fan. You know I'm a big Cubs fan. And Craig Counsell, is that a betrayal for you? Because I was asked that question, do I have a problem with Craig Counsell, the manager of the Brewers, leaving and going to the Cubs? I'm like, well, as long as he wins, I guess I'm okay with it, but I kind of am not okay with it. I'm a little torn. What were your thoughts when you heard that?
Well, when I heard the number, the $8 million a year,
it's ridiculous. Twice as much as any other manager.
I have this question. It's the old question from the movie Wall Street, I think it was, where they asked, how many yachts can you water ski behind? I do question, when is enough enough? No. I mean, holy cow. But okay. I don't know. I'll get over it. I mean, frankly, maybe the Brewers needed to make a change anyway. I mean, Craig Counsell is, first off, he's a good guy.
Absolutely, but he hasn't won a World Series yet with all that talent.
Right. He's a good human being, but boy, the Brewers get into the playoffs and it all falls apart. And it feels like part of that is a coaching issue. So I don't know. Your Cubs, you may be running into a buzzsaw down there. I don't know.
We'll find out. Brad, it's an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for doing this. You're welcome on anytime. Best of luck to you. Blessings to you and to your family. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Ben. Take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.